Thank you, Megan. What a wonderful representative you are of the graduating class, and how proud we are of your accomplishments. Now I would like to invite Chair Scordo to the podium to introduce our keynote speaker.
Our speaker this evening is Jefferson alumna Dr. Carla Overton, a pediatrician at Trust Pediatrics in Fulton, New York, and an associate professor of pediatrics with both Golisano Children's Hospital and Crouse Hospital in Syracuse. Dr. Overton is a Watertown native who came to Jefferson following her graduation from Watertown High School. After earning her Associate of Science degree in Mathematics and Science from Jefferson, Dr. Overton went on to Cornell University, where she completed a bachelor's degree in Human Biology, Health, and Society. She earned a Doctorate of Medicine degree from SUNY Upstate Medical Center in 2011, where she also completed her residency in pediatrics in 2014. Dr. Overton is an American Board of Pediatrics certified. Dr. Overton has dedicated much of her time serving those in need. She traveled in the Dominican Republic with a group of physicians providing healthcare services out of a mobile clinic. Through the Teach for American Corps program, she taught fifth grade students for 2 years in a low-income area of Baltimore, Maryland. During her time at Upstate Medical University, Dr. Overton studied abroad and worked in a mobile clinic in Peru and Costa Rica, and in Syracuse, she has volunteered her time in the Samaritan Center, PEDS Relief, and SUNY Upstate's Migrant Workers Clinic. Please welcome our speaker this evening, Dr. Carla Overton.
Good evening, President McCoy, Chair Scordo, distinguished guests, families, friends, and most importantly, the graduates. I'd first like to say a very sincere thank you for allowing me the privilege of talking to you today. 13 years ago, I sat where you are, after 2 very happy years here at Jefferson Community College. I was excited to graduate, of course, but also a little sad that my time here was over. In so many ways, my time here shaped and prepared me for what was to come, and I sincerely hope that each of you has found your experience here as valuable. When I was asked to speak today, my immediate reaction was, in what world does anyone think I'm qualified to be a commencement speaker? There's a phenomenon in medicine called the gray-haired effect, and that's manifested by walking into a room at the ripe old age of 28 and trying to give a diagnosis or recommendation to a patient and having them say, "You're way too young to be a doctor." And then 2 minutes later, someone with gray hair walks in and says the exact same thing and is immediately respected as an authority. In a lot of ways, this is normal human nature. We assume that a long life lived has resulted in some meaningful lessons and wisdom worth listening to. So today I decided to go with my instinct on that and not pretend for a second that I'm a member of the Gray-Haired Club. Instead, I'll take the opportunity to share some lessons from some of the more significant mentors in my life, and I hope these will resonate with you in the same way they have with me. So I have 3 brief stories to share with you that I've always been thankful for learning at an early age. My first, during my pediatric residency at the Children's Hospital in Syracuse, I worked with a pediatric intensive care specialist who's a very smart and super intimidating legend in pediatrics. I learned so many lessons from Dr. Cantor. Walk quickly, but don't run to an emergency because you're no good to anybody if you're out of breath. There's no problem that isn't solvable with a healthy dose of intellectual curiosity and some peace and quiet, and that a calm and measured approach always serves better than frantic energy. But most importantly, I distinctly remember a conversation we had at a time when I felt I was at a crossroads. I had been offered a job that in theory I knew would be perfect for me. The job was on paper exactly what I said I had always wanted to do, work as a general pediatrician in a small town where I could hope to make an impact on the community. However, the previous 18 months of residency had introduced me to intensive care medicine, and I found the nerdy, sciencey part of my brain preoccupied by the idea of this lifestyle. A comment from him at that moment changed my perspective immediately. He said when he looked back on his career, what made him happiest was how well his career had fit into his life. I realized in an instant that that's the goal, to find a career that both your heart and mind are at peace with, and not necessarily to find a career that is your life. You all are at a crossroads, just as I was. Will you find a job to pay the bills? Will you pursue more education? What I hope you'll all stop to consider is what you want in the end. What will you be able to look back on 50 years from now and say, I do it all again? There are so many factors that contribute to our happiness in life, and the goal you've achieved today is a significant piece of that. But what you choose to do with this accomplishment is a much bigger piece. I have known people that followed paths to maximize their financial or intellectual goals at the expense of their quality of life and the quality of their personal lives. And I've known others who have taken the opposite approach, taking a job that gets them by but doesn't excite, reward, or challenge them to have more time for their personal lives. In the end, I think these groups can end up equally unsatisfied, even regretful at times. Your task is to be in search of a career that brings everything together, that allows you to be the professional you want to be, the parent and spouse you want to be, the friend you want to be, the person you want to be. For each of us, this will look different, and that's the important part. You have to figure out what this means for you. What I hope you will take from Dr. Cantor's words to me a few years ago is that it's worth taking a pause and resisting the swift pace of the world we live in. Take this time at this crossroads to consider the paths in front of you and where they may lead. My second story. Several years ago, I spent several weeks working in Peru with a doctor in areas with very limited access to medical care. He'd made this his life's work in his later years, giving back to a community which was not his own, but which had a great amount of need for someone like him. The agency I worked with is called Moso Cayu, which is a phrase in the Peruvian language of Quechua, which means a better community. On one particularly long drive on the treacherous roads of rural Peru, we had a long conversation about this idea. His message was this: education and intellect are a gift, a privilege that separates us from so many others that, for a variety of reasons, don't have the ability or opportunity to do what you all have done. And he spent his life with this in mind and sought daily to pay this forward, to use himself and his abilities to improve the community. He said more than once on that drive, how wonderful would the world be if all those who could help others did help others. As a college graduate, you are now in a minority. According to Wikipedia, the ultimate authority, about 45% of the adults in this country graduate from college. Worldwide, that number falls to about 7%. You have all worked hard to become part of this minority, to afford yourselves choices and opportunities going forward. Today you should celebrate, and forever you should feel proud of what you've accomplished. But I would urge you all to take a moment to reflect and feel thankful for the people, support systems, and circumstances that have helped you get here and will continue to help you in the future. And then, perhaps we can all find small ways to use our abilities and accomplishments to make a better community, to be an example for the young people in our lives, showing them the value of education and hard work, to be an advocate for those with less than us, to be an asset to the communities we live in. And my third story. I'd be remiss if, as a former teacher and current pediatrician, I didn't include something from someone a little less gray-haired, one of the many hundreds of children I've had the pleasure of knowing. So this is a story from my teaching years. When I started teaching through Teach for America as an eager and very naive 22-year-old, I was set to work with fifth graders in inner city Baltimore. I had this grand plan that we'd have a classroom discussion about rules at the beginning of the year, and they would help me come up with the rules so they'd be more invested in the classroom. I had a lot of very naive ideas about what I hoped the discussion would look like, and I had imagined a conversation that went much differently than it actually did. When I started the lesson, almost immediately, a particularly precocious 10-year-old, Gerard, raised his hand and said, "Work hard, be nice, that's all the rules you need." Class over, discussion ended, and that was it. We made a sign, hung it up, and referred to these rules constantly as tenets to live by. This idea has stuck with me ever since, and I think it's applicable to all that we do. Work hard, be nice. Two simple rules that apply to everything. In our studies and academic endeavors, in our careers, in our families and personal lives, if you keep these ideas in mind, more often than not, opportunities will find you and outcomes will be better. There's a psychologist named Mark Lewis who once said, "The way to be happy is to like yourself, and the way to like yourself is to do only things that make you proud." I think if we all followed Gerard's rules, we would rarely, if ever, find times when we couldn't be proud of ourselves. Today is one of those times. For some of you, this was the final step to starting the professional life you've planned for, and for others, this was the first step down a long road. Whatever your plans, I hope that these ideas have resonated and that the ideas of 2 gray-haired mentors and 1 brilliant 10-year-old are useful to you at this stage of your journey. I wish for all of you the opportunity to find a career that fits neatly into the folds of your life while giving your days meaning and purpose, a chance to make a positive impact in your families, your communities, and our world, and a life surrounded by people who will work hard and be nice, just as we all should be. Congratulations and good luck. Thank you.